Hello everyone and welcome to What Culture. I'm Josh, joined as ever by Ewan Patterson via the glories of the internet because sadly 2020 has kind of just been delayed, or at least all of the movies in the world have. There have been a bunch of reports coming out over the past day about entire movie studios moving all of the movies, that's a lot of movies there, that they had slated for this year to 2021 and beyond. So we thought we might as well go through every single thing that has been officially delayed due to, the ongoing events around the world and kind of see what the status of cinema in 2020 looks like, what 2021 is going to look like, and just what has moved, what hasn't moved, and what probably will move.
I have the answer for what it does look like, Josh Brown. It looks as this fine scented candle, and it's all on fire, as you can see right there. It's just all on fire right now. The movie movers are at it again because literally everything is getting delayed, and we'll kind of talk a little bit at the end of the video as well about how all the stuff that's being currently delayed in terms of movie shoots as well effectively means that 2020 isn't just cancelled. 2021 is going to be the new 2020 because everything is moving into 2021, and even the films that haven't moved into 2021 yet will probably move into 2021 at some point or another because the studios still are persisting, or some studios are persisting rather, with the idea that cinema is going to get back to normal by the end of the summer, which is a little bit naive at this current moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I want to say we're definitely going to get a Christopher Nolan movie about how 2020 became the new 2021. But yeah, like a lot of the movies have been delayed until next year, which seems more realistic, but a lot of them have just kind of been pushed until June, July, or, into the autumn, which seems a bit optimistic.
Yes, I completely agree. It's a case of, I don't think anything is going to get back to normal for at least until the end of the year, and even then we could see more measures introduced to basically, to react to the current ongoing situation. But yeah, this kind of, basically the first thing that kind of came into my mind today was that Sony announced this week that they delayed their entire catalogue for 2020 into 2021. So this includes Morbius, the living vampire, which obviously was Jared Leto's new superhero vehicle, which he was out chilling in the desert during all of this, so that's pretty amazing. That's now going to release in March 19th, 2021. And Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is going to star Paul Rudd, that's going to release March 5th, 2021. So Sony are stacking two of their biggest, probably, their most high-profile efforts this year, I want to say. They're basically putting them both in the March slots of 2021, trying to get ahead of the competition, which, I guess makes sense. And it's curious to see how the studios will start scrambling for these release dates now, because say Sony lock in March, what does that mean for, Marvel, where they're going to fit in Black Widow into all of this? And obviously you've got the Eternals as well. So there's all sorts of different things you have to consider there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because obviously you have to assume that with, the first half, at least of this year, more or less written off for the studios, they're going to want to try and recoup that money as early as possible next year. But that is going to mean for a stacked, potentially a stacked release schedule. We have 2020's movies spilling over to 2021's release dates because these movie studios they plan years and years ahead, and Sony already has a 2021 slate that they are hoping to hit, so these are kind of getting squeezed in, but like you said, there's only so much space, so we could see a bunch of major movies going head-to-head on opening weekends. And it's interesting that both of these new films have March release dates. I think that, kind of stands to support this idea that they just want to get them into slots, you know what I mean? They want to get 2020's movies out there, but not in a way that has to impact their offering for next year that they already had planned.
Yeah, completely. And, there's still stuff that is due to come out later this year. Obviously, No Time to Die, that was the first big high-profile delay, I want to say, next to, Fast and Furious 9. No Time to Die is currently scheduled to release later in November. Again, I would keep an eye on this one, just surely because we don't know what things are going to look like by the time, it's October or September. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes. Marvel have kind of taken an interesting approach here with Black Widow. Obviously, that was meant to release in May. They've delayed that indefinitely now. We have no idea when that film's actually going to drop. And obviously, Disney have all sorts of different utilities at their disposal now, like Disney Plus. It's potentially, could we see it maybe launch on demand at some point? I doubt it, but this is an interesting thing for Marvel as well, because not only are they having to delay Black Widow, which obviously was all shot and ready to go, they're also going to experience troubles with terms of the knock-on effect. So Black Widow gets delayed, the Eternals is going to have to get delayed. You have production issues currently going on, with Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and then of course you have other stuff to come after that. So it's a big headache for them in particular, considering Marvel Studios are so meticulous with how they basically lay out how they want their movies to hit in this phase. So that is going to be really interesting to see how that pans out for them specifically.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've sort of seen them kind of react with that in mind. Unlike other studios, they seem to have, a firm idea of how they want to roll out their movies, and that meant Black Widow like didn't get delayed until quite late, until pretty much everyone else had moved, and like you said, it's been delayed indefinitely. But they're still kind of insisting that the Doctor Strange sequel is going to start production in, I think, June or July, which is very optimistic at best. But yeah, they do have a lot of other avenues. Like you said, they could drop something on Disney Plus, and that might be a mega hit. It might allow them to recoup some of the cost and maybe even make a profit while keeping their roadmap as planned. But they're a real weird one. Like in direct contrast to Sony, who have literally just said, nope, you know what, these can breathe in 2021 and we'll worry about it then. They seem to have taken the inverse approach, which is strange.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Sony, in terms of Morbius specifically, I guess the only thing they have to worry about is how Spider-Man's going to look in terms of, I think that's releasing, was it 2022? The next Spider-Man film will release or something, somewhere along that time. I don't know. I don't even know.
Maybe earlier, I think.
Yeah, maybe it might be earlier. But also, there are other big films this year that have been delayed. A Quiet Place 2 is one of the big ones as well. Spiral, the new kind of Saw spin-off that's starring, Samuel L. Jackson. Mulan, obviously, that had its actual premiere, and that's been completely delayed. The New Mutants just can't catch a break. That has also been delayed as well. That film just isn't releasing. It isn't. I think we should just all accept that it's just going to linger and just film limbo forever.
Yeah, that and the Uncharted movie, which was finally about to start filming after 10 years of production, which is also being knocked back. Like, those things they just cannot catch a break, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, Wonder Woman 1984 is the next on my list. That is now releasing August 14th. But again, like we said earlier on, if we're saying that No Time to Die with its November slot is looking maybe potentially, a bit kind of precarious, I really, really do doubt that Wonder Woman will meet its August release date.
Yeah, fully agree. I expect news on that being bumped within the coming weeks, because it just kind of has to. It's kind of like you can't rely on a release date like that until we know more information. And I feel like every other day, this time period we're in just keeps getting extended and extended, So I feel, that's absolutely a dead cert to move. It hasn't yet, but they kind of have to, unless they're going to treat its release in a weird, different way than what we're used to.
I'm going to wheel through a bunch of other films that have been delayed so far this year as well. Antebellum, Run, Antlers, Peter Rabbit 2, The Lovebirds, Minions, The Rise of Gru. I forgot that the Minions were still going. Scoob, that's going. The Personal History of David Copperfield, which is very close to releasing. I saw adverts for that at the Tyneside Cinema a bunch, literally the other month.
We got that in the UK, but I guess that must be its worldwide release.
The Woman in the Window, The Artist's Wife, The Climb, Deerskin, First Cow. I was so excited to see First Cow. That's apparently, getting delays everywhere. Greyhound, In the Heights, and of course, James Wan's Malignant as well. All sorts of different stuff kind of being delayed there. And this is where we kind of come to the production delays as well. So probably the biggest high-profile production delay that I can really point out right now is Matt Reeves' Batman. Obviously, after so many years just waiting for something to come out, it was finally moving ahead. We had, it was shooting in Glasgow, it was shooting in London, and then obviously everything happened, and then it uprooted its production from London to Liverpool. We were actually filming outside St. George's Hall, so I think they were doing something maybe to do with the DA building or something like that. I saw they had all the different bits going along there, but obviously now shooting is effectively stopped there too. And obviously I think that the current rumor right now is that they're still optimistic about meeting a 2021 release, but at the same time, that's going to take a massive hit on production.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think of how long, these movies, these big tentpole movies are in post-production for, with the visual effects, with all the editing, all of that stuff. It takes a long time to put this thing together after filming is done. So a 2021 release date, at least in the first half of that year, does seem very, very optimistic for that thing. But that's, it sounds negative, but that ultimately is kind of a good thing, because, you want these films, you don't want them to be rushed out. You don't want them to be going head to head with a bloody global crisis and trying to hit a release date. Just, there is time, we can wait, we all understand, let it breathe a little bit. And yeah, it sucks, especially for the Batman, which was about 3 weeks into filming anyway, to have to, pick up where they left off essentially. But at the end of the day, as long as they're safe, as long as they're good, as long as they make a good film at the end of it, that's cool. You did mention that in the big slew of films that you reeled off there, what I'm fascinated by is, obviously, you'd assume that the major tentpoles like, Batman, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, whatever, they won't come to streaming services. But I wonder if the likes of David Copperfield or Antebellum, if they debut now, either to be rented on video on demand or streaming or anything like that. I wonder if they benefit from that. I wonder if they just skip the cinema release all entirely and just go straight into the homes.
I think that makes perfect sense. No matter how much, I would personally, obviously I don't really have a stake in this, so obviously I would love to see films be in the cinema first and foremost, but if they have to release on demand to survive, then fair enough. And obviously we saw the likes of Birds of Prey and Invisible Man kind of get early on demand releases too. So yeah, I feel as though that is definitely an option for these companies currently going on right now. You can see them on Prime or Netflix maybe even. So I definitely think that's definitely an option. It's a bit of an interesting thing to contemplate right now, because if they see a lot of success on these on-demand options, who's to say that in the future they maybe circumvent the whole cinema process and just end up releasing them on demand. That's one of my big anxieties currently right now.
Yeah, definitely, which would suck because I'm a huge advocate for the cinema experience. It's kind of funny that this has been the year that at the start of the year I was won back around on cinemas, because I'd actually soured on them for a while, but I saw The Lighthouse, Uncut Gems, all with a packed theater. I thought this is amazing. Then obviously that has been halted. But yeah, I think across all industries we're going to see some very interesting experiments, and the fallout of this on the business side come for years afterwards. Take gaming for instance. I feel like with everyone, at home, we're going to see a huge spike in digital sales, which were already on the rise anyway. So I wonder if it just kind of jumpstarts, people embracing on-demand media in a way that might have taken a couple more years, because it was always trending that way anyway. But with this in mind, and people more inclined to take a risk or experiment, we might see movies circumnavigate the cinema experience altogether going forward, because it might succeed over this period.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And it's interesting that you point out the video game comparison as well, because there's a similar thing going on in comics right now, where certain industry retailers have been calling for, the big publishers like DC and Marvel to halt releasing comics while comic stores are currently shut. But currently there are still comics releasing on digital platforms, so you do have to wonder. I think they're confident right now that people who buy digital were always going to buy digital, and people who were going to buy physical or go to a cinema or whatever will continue to do that. But it is interesting, if people are faced with no alternative to acquire a piece of media, does that change their habits going forward? This could be a massive transformative effect on all sorts of different creative mediums and industries.
Yeah, definitely. I think the telling one for it, weirdly enough, and I'm getting off a tangent, we could probably save this for a whole other video, which is music, because we've seen a lot of albums get delayed, which I didn't think would happen, because predominantly, a lot of people stream their music anyway, if it's by Spotify or they buy digitally online. And yet we've seen a lot of delays, maybe because the industry is hesitant to move away from, what's already been, the infrastructure is already in place, the physical side of things. But it's fascinating and intriguing, and I guess we're just gonna have to see what happens at the end of the day. But yeah, let us know down in the comments what you think about all of these movies being delayed, and are you still looking forward to them if they drop on on demand, if they come out next year in theaters, or if they're all packed into March like Sony's releases. So yeah, let us know. If you can follow me, if you want, on Twitter at Josh Boone with 2 O's. You can follow Ewan on Twitter at
Ewan Ruins Things.
And we will see you soon. Stay safe, have a good time. Bye.
Bye.